Shalom, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of the Rivkah journey. My name is Rabbi Shapira. I am the author of the Rivkah Remnant, but today and throughout this series, I am journeying together with you throughout this wilderness as we are looking for a way to bring as many of you as possible to the successful Rivkah journey. Now we are looking at specific attributes of a specific journey of Rivkah, and if you missed one of the previous episodes, please go back and watch a previous episode. I think today's episode is going to be a challenging for a lot of us, as we're going to look specifically at the answer for Rivkah as she goes out. Of course, we encourage you to get the book in your hand. This is not a substitute to the book. We simply want to give you some principle so that you can go out in strength and in power. Now, the question that was asked by Bethuel and Lavan goes like that, as we read in page 122. Will you go with this man? Or in Hebrew, will you go im aish azeh? Now, im aish azeh, if you look at the three letters in the conclusion of each of those words, of those three words, im, mem, aish, shin, hazeh, hey, you get a name. You get the name Moshe. You get the name Moses, which is going to be very important. Listen to what was written in page 122. It says, the underlying tone behind the question presented to Rivkah prior to her departure by Lavan and Bethuel was deceptive at its very core. Will you go with this man? The word in Hebrew, the man, or aish azeh, suggests a negative and manipulative tone from Bethuel and Lavan. When you hear this tone, this word aish azeh, it's quite suspicious. As I said, they're implying that this man is not to be trusted, However, as I write here, there is a linguistic clue called in Hebrew a remez in the text that linger beyond the seemingly strange question in the language of the Torah. The Baal HaTurim leave us a chilling linguistic pearl visible only through the holy tongue, that it is spelled the word Moses. In essence, what was asked is, are you going to go to our system? Are you going to follow our Torah? Or are you going to follow Moses' Torah? Or are you going to follow this new Torah by this man? Now, you probably ask the question, how can we see Moses encoded while Moses is yet to be born? Because you see, friends, the Torah, although was completed on one Mount Sinai, was already given in bits and pieces to Abraham and passed to Isaac through his lineage. So parts of the Torah is already been given long before that, and everybody need to understand it. So the question here that is being asked is really important question. Are you going to follow my Torah, meaning Bethuel and Lavan, or are you going to follow the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu? This is the question that we are asking yourself. You see, today we have to understand something. We have to understand something, that there is only one Torah that is given to the house of Israel. There's only one interpretation that is given to the house of Israel, and this is a choice that each and every one of you have to make. Will you follow the Torah of Israel, or will you follow some other strange and morph interpretation? Listen to what I wrote in page 123. Allow me to pause for a moment and touch on a sensitive topic, and I sincerely hope nobody get offended on that, okay? But listen to this. As many of you today claim to be returning to the Torah, yet you return the Torah of the Jewish people, made up of both the written commandment and also the oral interpretation of how to fulfill the commandment, Rivkah answer, I will go, can be interpreted as I will submit to the Torah of the house of Itzhak. Today, too many Rivkah wannabes desire to come to the house of Itzhak to redecorate it with dual expression. The house of Itzhak must remain set apart, and Rivkah desire to submit to the Torah of Itzhak resonate with the word of Rabbi Shaul in Romans chapter 3 verse 1 and 2. What advantage there is of being Jewish? What benefit there is in circumcision? Much in every way. First of all, they were entrusted the oracle of God. You need to understand that the question that was asked is a question about a spiritual authority. Which spiritual authority are you going to follow? The house of Itzhak, the house of Israel, or are you going to follow your own system, any system? You see, that's where we have to be careful at the Rivkah journey. In the very heart of the journey today, Rivkah had to submit to Eliezer, and Rivkah ultimately have to submit to Itzhak. My challenge to all of you today, even if Itzhak is incorrect, even if Judaism is wrong, even if Judaism is not correct on this or that interpretation, submit to the authority and the interpretation of the house of Israel. Why? Because that's where you are returning. Can you imagine returning to the house of Israel and then saying, I hate this house, I'm rejecting this house? It would be impossible. Therefore, today, one of the attributes of Rivkah Remnant is to submit to this authority in order to be able to bring the message of the wholeness that Itzhak is needed. How can one give a message if he's not willing to enter to the house and submit it to us so in proper way? So even returning to Torah, as people say Torah is written and there is an oral interpretation. And if you do not accept the written and oral interpretation, you in essence rejecting the house that you're claiming to go to. So submit yourself. Rivkah have a submissive role as she come forward and she bring the message to Itzhak's salvation. In her wanting to submit to him, to Itzhak, she himself become the redeemer of Itzhak and his house. What an amazing shiur today to us. Get the book. God bless you. See you in the next shiur.